Welcome to the Decide to Move podcast, helping entrepreneurs like you make smart, pivotal shifts in your life and business. Tune in each episode for inspiring stories from brilliant business minds and trailblazers to find out how they made their big moves and how you can too. Now here's your host, author, speaker, business strategist, CEO, and founder of Decide to Move, Monica M. Bijou.
Hey, thank you for joining me for another episode. I am super excited because I have another amazing guest with me today, and she's here to teach you all about how to grow your brand using social media, especially in a time like this. So she's going to be talking about storytelling, messaging, and then just how to actually show up on social media. One that's good for people to know too, but especially when we're going through something such as this pandemic, we want to definitely know what's a good way to do so. So today with me, I have Katie Thompson. She's the founder of Modern Darling Media and the host of the Hustlenomics podcast. I love that. She's also a full-service branding, marketing, and design agency for creative entrepreneurs who want to make a bold and meaningful impact in the world. And I absolutely love having guests like that because I'm all about having guests that are about making meaningful impact, not just making money, but making an impact in the world. So thank you so much for joining me today, Katie.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
This is super exciting. I'm absolutely excited to hear about your talk today because right now with everything happening, I've seen a lot of people really struggling with social media as a whole. And then now that the pandemic is happening, they're not really sure how to show up, what should they talk about, what shouldn't they talk about. So I'm excited to hear about that. But before we dive in, tell my viewers who you are, where you're coming in from, and then just your entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, my name is Katie Thompson. I'm calling in from Utah. I'm originally from Georgia, but my husband and I moved out here about a year and a half ago. So yeah, my company is Modern Darling Media. I've been full-time for 2 years now, but it's been a long 3.5 year process of moving it from side hustle to eventually full-time business. And I also have my podcast, the Hustlenomics podcast, where I interview other female entrepreneurs about their journey to becoming business owners.
Nice. I absolutely like that. Tell a little bit about your podcast. How often do you have it airing so people can also follow you as well?
Absolutely. So we release a episode once a week on Fridays because I always love to be able to listen to a podcast on the weekend. And so, I always like to release on Fridays. So every week we're about to release episode 84.
Nice. How long have you been doing your podcast?
About 2 years, since 2018. So this has been a passion project for sure.
Nice. So what got you all into social media being the business that you chose to use or to execute, I should say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that I enjoy. It's obviously very pervasive in our day-to-day life. I don't know anybody who can avoid it for too long. But also, I just love the idea of using it for branding and for business. It's such an accessible way to reach your customers and your clients and really build your brand and really kind of just get into people's everyday life and connect to them. So I just really enjoyed doing it. Obviously, I'm a millennial, so I grew up with social media. So it was something that I already really knew how to do. But over the past couple of years, I've really honed my skills to do it, and specifically for business.
And is there a particular platform that you prefer over others?
My big ones are Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. I think Pinterest is like one of the most underutilized social media platforms out there. We've all gone on to look for recipes or, decorating ideas, but it's amazing. It's basically a search engine. And so I really, really love using Pinterest to, grow your email list and grow your business and all of that.
Yeah, well, can you go into details about that? Because it is one that I know personally for me that I do not use Pinterest as a way of growing my business or even marketing anything on my business. What is a way that a person can go about using Pinterest if they've never done it before? Or if they have and they just haven't, just like you said, look up recipes and diet stuff and exercise, because those seem to be the biggest ones. How do they take it to the next level to be something they use for their actual business?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about the way Pinterest works, it's a little bit different than something like Facebook or Instagram, because people are going on there for a particular reason, right? They're looking for something. They're typing something into the search bar and trying to find a solution to their problem or an answer or inspiration, whatever. So you're actually getting a warmed up audience looking for your content, and you already know they're your audience because they're searching for something specific to what you're doing. So that's an advantage. It's not just people scrolling and they stop and like, oh, okay, that's interesting. They're already going there to look for what you do. So I love using a platform called Tailwind. It is a fantastic platform. They have a free option and also some paid options. And you can upload your pins. I create them in Photoshop and in Canva if you want, which is also free. And you upload them and you can put in your links and your descriptions and all that. So also, one thing that I love to remind people is SEO is important on Pinterest. Just like you would do like a Google ad, you need keywords and things that people are going to be searching for, right? Because you want people to find you. So always making sure that you're using relevant keywords in your description, making sure your links are all correct, and you're driving people back to your website, which is what we all want. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big difference too, because I know a lot of times on Facebook and Instagram, when people are posting, they're not necessarily leading people back to their website. They're leading people to like an offer or something specific, but not necessarily their website.
Right, exactly.
So that's great. So tell me, like, how did you get into the storytelling portion of like marketing and a message, putting your message out there?
Yeah, so I've always kind of considered myself a storyteller. I have a background in writing and fiction, as well as journalism and theater and music. So I've been involved in storytelling in all different kind of mediums, I guess you could say. But if you really think about it, what we connect to and how we kind of live our everyday life, it's through stories, and this what we remember. So taking kind of a storytelling approach to marketing and branding is, I think, the best way to get customers to like, respect, trust you, and to be loyal.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like I say about my podcast, like I always love hearing people's story and their journey, because that's what people listen to and connect with first. Because people can tell tips and strategies, they can Google that, read it for themselves. But hearing a person's story and their passion and connecting with them and then getting all their strategies is what people like. I can listen to that strategy some other time or read it myself, but I don't get the chance to connect with people. So that's why I decided to do what I do, because it is that storytelling, connecting, and people being able to resonate with who you are as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So are you ready to get started and tell us all about how we can actually build up our brand and our on social media? I know you talk about Pinterest, but all just period as a whole, how do we grow our business? How we use storytelling, give an example, and then basically how do we just continue to show up during a time like this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's jump in.
I'm ready. Go right it
All
forward.
right. So, I mean, basically, when I talk to people about social media, if someone's coming to me as a client and they say, well, I have no idea where to start. Basically, I feel overwhelmed. There's so many platforms. I don't know who I'm talking to or what I want to say. The first thing is I asked about their ideal client. Who are they trying to reach? Who are they trying to sell to? Because, and this is the biggest thing, you don't need to be on all the platforms. And I always hear like a big sigh of relief. It's like, thank God I don't have to do everything. I mean, that's because your ideal audience is not going to be on every single platform. For example, my audience, they're female entrepreneurs. They're usually young, creative. So they're definitely on Pinterest. They're definitely on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. But I have a client whose ideal audience is mostly menopausal women in their 50s, 60s. So they're not going to be hanging out on Instagram as much. They're on Facebook and they're on LinkedIn, so understanding where your audience is hanging out, that's going to narrow your platforms down for you a lot. And I always say, don't try to do everything. You just try to do a few things really well. And the next key, once you kind of figure out where you need to be, is understanding your messaging, why you're on social media. So is it to create brand awareness? Is it to get clients? Is it to connect with your audience? Or is it all three? You understand why you're on there, because a lot of people, they just want, okay, I want this to make sales for me, which is great. But also I tell them, you need to also understand that it's for brand awareness, because if someone wants to hire you, right? And they go and look at your Instagram and you haven't posted in 2 years. That's not a very good look, you know? So you also got to understand that there's some non-monetary value within social media as well. And then the next thing is really consistency. Like I mentioned, if you're not posting in 2 years, people are going to notice that and they're going to be like, well, I don't know about that. So making sure that you set yourself up for success, whether that's scheduling, content calendars, planning, having someone do it for you, you know, all of those things are going to keep you consistent. So those are just a few key points that I think are really important to start out with.
And then how do they, so once they identify their ideal audience and they identify which platform they want to actually show up on, and they said, okay, I've been consistent, but what do they need to actually post?
Yeah, so one trick that I love to do that works well for a lot of people is theme your days. And this is a great way to get started. So for example, we all know Motivational Monday or Tip Tuesday or Feature Friday. Putting like those labels and those kind of sections, I guess, on each of your days really helps you plan your content. So, you know, okay, if we're doing a Motivational Monday post each Monday, I need to put together 4 motivational posts for this month. And then you go down the line. It's a great way to stay organized. It helps you not feel so overwhelmed. And it also adds some consistency to your posting. So people know, oh, great. Yes, she's going to be posting a tip today that I can go check out. So it gives your audience something to trust and look forward to. So that's like one of my little hacks that I love to do.
Yeah, I definitely do that as well, which I absolutely love because it takes the guesswork out and it keeps it different but consistent, right?
Exactly.
Where people know, and it's like, oh, I want to promote myself. Well, I do promote Monday. So that's your day that you can actually promote your stuff, because people also don't want to be bombarded with a whole bunch of links and different things like that.
Right.
So how do they incorporate their storytelling into their actual posting or even social media?
Absolutely. So one simple way that I kind of share with my clients is there is a storytelling formula, right? We all know this from reading books, watching movies, writing essays. You know, there's a formula where it starts out, there's a crisis or there's a problem. Then we have our building action basically, or like, how can we solve this problem? And then we give the solution. So it's very simple. It's just 3 steps. And you can do that with your social media. So for example, if you know your clients, since we're talking about social media, you know your clients aren't posting consistently. So that's a big problem and they want to post consistently. So you're providing a solution. Hey, here's this downloadable content calendar that you can use. So, and you know, you're seeing the issue and putting forward something that can solve it. So that's one storytelling technique that I really like to use. And it's a formula which you can implement all across different platforms. But also with social media, we have to understand that we have to get people's attention really quickly because they're scrolling, and not everything's going to make them stop. So making sure that you have really eye-catching visuals, whether that's video, you know, graphics, images, making sure that you're really making them high quality and eye-catching, so people stop that scroll.
Yeah, and that's super huge and important because they say you have like about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and it depends on, like for me, I'm a person that I'm a quick action taker. So if I'm going to buy something, I know right away that I'm going to buy it. And if I'm not going to, I know right away. And then the more persistent someone becomes, the worse I'm like, nope, right? But it's like, it's really about catching my attention right away and making me want to open up, dig deeper and see exactly what you have to say and why should I even open this. Kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's also really important to make sure you're listening to your audience for what kind of stories they want to hear. If you're just putting things out there and no one's listening, it's probably because no one's asking those questions. So really kind of listening to what your audience and seeing what they're wanting to hear.
And what's a recommendation that you have for people who don't know how to reach their audience to find out, like there's, you know, either starting out or they're making a pivotal shift and they're going into, right now with the crisis happening, you're going to have a lot of new entrepreneurs coming on scene, people who've been successful, but now they're going into a different shift or now finding their purpose and their passion. How do you recommend that they find what their audience want to say or hear?
Absolutely. So my first go-to are Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group for literally any kind of niche, market, topic, whatever. All you have to do is go into Facebook and search something. Like, for example, I would search female entrepreneurs or female freelancers or something like that and join that group. And you can go in there and and start kind of looking through some of the comments. People are always asking questions. They're asking for help on something. They're asking about things that they don't know how to do. So see what comes up over and over again. And there you can actually really find those pain points that your ideal audience is going through, and you can provide a solution.
Okay, that's great. Great information. And I know there's other websites out there as well, like Ask Any Question and different things like that, that people can go to really find out what are people asking, what do people want to know. And so you talked about during this crisis is a good time to build your brand and really like grow your brand in a crisis like this. How can people use this opportunity, not like in a bad way, but as an opportunity to really connect with their audience and continue to grow from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all struggling with how to approach this online and, with our clients. We're not sure what to say. But I just took the approach of honesty and transparency, saying, yeah, some days are not so great. Some days I'm doing a little bit better. Just being honest and open with your audience. They'll so appreciate that transparency. And that's what we really need right now. And I think just providing as much value as possible. Don't stop selling, but change your messaging and making sure that you're providing as much value as possible. If you have freebies, if you want to host a webinar or a virtual meetup, just showing your clients and your customers that you're there for them outside of them paying you, and that you really want to provide value to them and help them get through this time with the services that you might be able to provide.
Yeah, that's great information and great advice. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that are, I've had some people say, nope, you shouldn't launch anything, you shouldn't sell anything. And then there's people that say, give everything away for free. And then I've had some entrepreneurs that were like, wait, but what do I do and how do I survive and go from there? But then there's those ones that remember, like those your clients will remember when you do something like you see all the stars and movie people that are showing up giving concerts. People are going to be loyal and remember those people who provided in the time when they really needed something and support, and they kind of become like your loyal fan without even realizing that that's where they become from that standpoint.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just for an example, like I know right now a lot of people have a lot more free time than they're used to, and they're starting that podcast that they've always been dreaming about. They just haven't had time to do it. So I have a DIY podcasting course that I am giving away for a huge discount. So I'm not giving away for free, but it's something that I know that people are looking for right now. But it's really discounted because I want to be sensitive to what's going on. So that's just kind of an example of something that you can do during these tough times.
Yeah, exactly. We're both in the same boat. Actually, a lot of people came to me and asked me, will you please teach me how to do a podcast and how to, get it to the point where, because it's become international very quickly, and just having really connecting with a lot of great speakers and experts and different things in their field. And so I've had several people and I said, okay, I'm finishing it up, because unfortunately for my schedule being that person, I don't have the luxury of having more free time. My time is increased because, when you're working I'm actually a therapist as well. So as a therapist, that's where more people are struggling and having a difficult time. So then my time end up becoming more, that's what I'm here for, whether it's from a business coach or even from a personal space, that it helps to be there. So
Absolutely.
most definitely. So what are some other advice that you have for our listeners?
Just arm yourself with tools and things that are going to help you stay consistent, stay organized, and free up some of your time. And there's amazing scheduling platforms out there for social media. If you really want to make sure you're staying consistent, things like Buffer or Later or Planoly. There's different ones that you can choose, and you can even preview your Instagram feed and see what it's going to look like. There's a lot of great features, but also create yourself a content calendar. Sit down and write out what you want to share, when you want to share it, and that'll save you so much headache for when that Monday when you're just not in that good headspace and you're like, I just don't know what to post today. But then you can go back to your content calendar and there's tons of ideas for you to choose from. So do some research, really arm yourself with the tools that are going to set you up for success.
Yeah, that's great information. And how can someone find you if they're wanting to connect with you and say, hey, Katie, I don't feel like doing any of this myself. Can you help me brand myself because you do what you do. And even for some of the older people who don't necessarily use Pinterest may start wanting to, because of the fact that you have people that are using. Right now, it's kind of hard to know who's using what because people are home. So you find some people saying, hey, let me go on Pinterest, or listening to this talk and they feel like this is something they want to try. How could they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at moderndarlingmedia.com, and that's my website. There's, all the description of the services I offer, but there are also tons of free downloads for people who want to learn a little bit about different things. There's podcasting, social media marketing, all different kind of free downloads in my free resource library. So definitely check that out if you have some time.
Nice. Definitely. Do you have any special events or anything that you have going on right now?
Just this podcast course sale. It's going to be going on. I think I'm going to extend it for another week or so, just because the quarantine has been extended. So I want to make sure people get access to that. So you can find that under the education tab on my website. And if you, have any questions about podcasting, I also have a free webinar too. So.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for catching us for another episode of Decide to Move podcast. I had Katie here sharing you all the different ways that you can show up online, especially during this crisis. How do you use storytelling? How do you build your social media and get your messaging out there, and all the different platforms to do so? And if you are short on time, even though we have the pandemic, there's some people who do have more time and some that don't. There's ways that you can actually still show up consistently online, and she gave all those different locations, and she's going to have we're going to have a lot of information in the show notes. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to decidetomovepodcast.com. Until the next episode, you have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Decide to Move podcast with Monica M. Bijou. If you are ready to make a pivotal shift and take your destined position in the world, then schedule a free discovery call by going to www.decidetomove.com. For all links mentioned in today's show and to listen to previous episodes, go to www.decidetomovepodcast.com. And remember, we've all been delivered rotten fruit in our past. We can choose to chew on the rotten fruit trying to convince ourselves it's what we want, or we can become the fruits of our labor and create an incredible, fulfilling, and inspiring life and business out of it. You have what it takes to create the life you want.